Alright, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you're all doing well, and welcome to the showdown between the Chaos Dwarfs and Vampire Coast. It's going to be myself with Drazhoath the Ashen facing off against Anticity and Count Noctilus. So let's get this party started, let's have some fun, and see if he can take down the Lord of the Seven Seas here. He does, of course, have the DREADQUAKE mortar, which on this map actually is quite good, because you do have some terrain you can hide behind. So Vampire Coast comes in with carronades, for example. You can move it up here and shoot up and over. It is a mortar after all. And even though the tooltip does say that it has 60 speed, that's actually not correct. It only has 20 speed. It's very, very slow. So I don't know what that was. I got so excited. I was like, oh, I'm going to maneuver and shoot and hide. But I found out in this game, it just must be like some sort of a tooltip issue, because it for sure only has 20 speed. Now, for my build here, it might seem a little bit strange going with Drazhoath here, you know, a big scary monster that Vampire Coast could shoot out of the skies. But I figured that my mortars and, some of my bows could press back his guns, and then Drazhoath could pick off like depth guard and different things like that. And I was a little bit of a harsh critic of him when I first got my hands on Drazhoath, but I actually think he's a pretty good fighter character. I mean, he has great stats. 64 with fire damage against any sort of undead who like to regenerate is super pertinent, right? Huge armor piercing, massive charge bonus, more or less unbreakable, pretty good HP at 8.6. And he does have a leadership, not leadership, a melee attack or a buff. He also has the blazing body, so he can get physical resist as he spends time in combat. So yeah, we'll see. We have the Curse of Hatchet. Now this is like a Walmart Spirit Leech. It's a little bit more expensive, but is good against single targets. And we do have the Flames of Asgoro, which is kind of like a volcano, which is good against like zombie blobs. The rest of our army, I mean, I wouldn't recommend probably the DREADQUAKE in a really sweaty competitive match, but you got to try these things out, man. It can do a lot of work. Like, there's a bit of RNG in it, right? If it gets those direct hits on like a depth guard, it is going to crush him, man. But yeah, what I'm essentially going to say is by spending 2,300 on a DREADQUAKE, and this bad boy costs close to 3,000 on his mighty Cinder Breath or whatever the beast is called, it's going to be a low quality army. We have Hobgoblin Cutthroats, which against Coast Zombies aren't bad. They're shielded, 34 weapon strength, they get the job done. Gorda's Backstabber, a couple Hobgoblin Archers, and a bunch of Laborer units going to be sitting on the back objective with some Chaos Dwarf Warriors. Now, for the Kraken King's build, we actually played this matchup a couple days prior to this, and he went with a big gun line, so I think the Madman wants to try more of a rush-style build, which I think is not a bad idea, because the gun line, I feel, can probably get wrecked by Magma Cannon spam, so doing a bit of a single entity rush could potentially be nice, right? So double Morgul Haunter, Count Noctilus, backed up by Depth Guard. He's got Lamprey's Revenge and a couple zombies, so actually a really, really durable single entity army, essentially. Morgul Haunters, I believe, do regenerate in combat, but they're not weak to fire because it's not a regeneration mechanic, it's the hunger mechanic. So they basically do healing as they're in combat, whereas like baseline regeneration is weak to fire, but these guys aren't. So I really like that tech here. However, I do think big Drazhoath is going to be able to give them business. Classic Chaos Dwarfs. Now, another thing, guys, I wanted to point out, and Anticity and I were both laughing about this when we were playing. I did not have it on fire at will. I told it not to shoot, and it just shot in and annihilated one of my Goblin Labor units, but it seems as if it did a little bit of damage against the Morgul's there. But so yeah, just be aware, your DREADQUAKE mortars will they have a mind of their own. The demons truly have taken them over. They're just going to shoot even if you tell them not to. So be very careful. And they do shoot while moving. See how it's moving? That's maximum speed right there, guys. That is not 60 speed, that is 20. So a little bit unfortunate, but we paid the price. Hobgoblin Cutthroat's going to be trying to screen here while we do put some firepower from the Hobgoblins into the heavy armor of the Lamprey's Revenge. And now the big man's going to come down to fight. So we have Drazhoath the Ashen, who's such a cool character. Look at his mount, man. That thing is badass, riding a huge legendary Bale Taurus. And yeah, he's putting up a good fight. The Morgul Haunters are getting smashed pretty bad by Drazhoath. He's got a big charge bonus of 80, and we do summon in a basic Great Taurus, which is the cheaper variant to come in and fight. So now we have two big fire damage monsters, which again, if Invocation is going down on them, it can mitigate the healing to an extent. Doing a pretty good job. But Lamprey's Revenge are on the way in. Orc Labor's piling in to try and give some armor piercing. So I did bring some of those to put up a little bit of damage against Depth Guard and whatnot. And the dreaded DREADQUAKE mortar has been taking pot shots pretty much all day at the Depth Guard here in the back. And one thing that really caught me off guard, Anticity did a great job. He brought the deck dropper bombers. Now, I did not go with a dwarf-like army. It's mostly hobgoblins and light armor. So his tech here of these bombers has been brutal. Basically, all of my Hobgoblin Archers and basic Hobgoblins are getting wrecked here. And I didn't bring any of the Wolf Rider Archers, which is something I'm going to have to remember for next time. Now, look at that. The Monstrous Impact slows their speed by 60%, but we haven't been able to hit. But when that dreaded DREADQUAKE hits, I'm not going to hit my own Goblins, hopefully. It'll maybe get the job done. So one Morgul Haunter basically on deathbed. Drazhoath has been an absolute linebacker back here. He's been doing work as he munches down the scary monster, and one of them is going to be falling. The other one is in serious danger. However, the anti-large attacks from Count Noctilus have been adding up, and the Great Taurus is getting slightly damaged. Granted, let's see. Blazing Body is at, yeah, okay, the intensity is only 11%, so you have to be in combat pretty long. Another DREADQUAKE miss. So a little bit disappointed. I feel like Queen Bess is a little bit more accurate and like, yeah, obviously it's going to listen to you when you tell it not to shoot. Whereas Drazhoath here getting chased by Count Noctilus on the ground. We do have some Chaos Dwarf Warriors who've made it from the backfield, and the other Great Taurus now going to be jumping in and trying to finish off the Morgul Haunter, which is on fire and did get an invocation. So we'll see if the Mighty Bull of Hashut should be able to get the job done. I hope so. I sure do. Back objective, though, being taken by Coast. Goblin Laborers on their way back in, looking at the side point. We are managing to hold on to this. We have some Hobgoblin Cutthroats kind of hanging out. We also have Gorda's Backstabber here. The Hero Goblin, you know, he's pretty tough to kill. He's going to be very good against zombies and just grinding through chaff units and whatnot. We are ahead on value at this point, but Anticity does have pretty good healing, and he has been doing invocations in tandem with the Hunger on some of these units, so that bad boy has been getting some good heals off. Great Taurus here getting blasted, and that was a really nice one. He used the Wraithstorm from Count Noctilus, and it did go down to the Great Taurus and hit, and now at this point, I kind of want to get out of here. He's got Lamprey's Revenge, which have good armor piercing and shotguns on their backs. Did not feel good. We do use the Curse of Hashut, so the Curse of Hashut is a single damage spell, and trying to wear down that Morgul Haunter, but at the end of the day, maybe spamming different spells could have been better. But yeah, the Morgul Haunter is very, very close to death. Drazhoath going to be pulling back up in the sky. He's already gotten 2,000 value, so he hasn't quite paid for himself, but I would say he's been a big player this game, as the Chaos Dwarf Warriors do move in. They themselves don't do fire damage, but yeah, they're pretty stalwart. Basically an in-between of basic Dwarf Warriors of the Dwarves and the more elite Longbeard. They're like right in the middle of those type of units, whereas Chaos Dwarves, of course, I think Chaos Dwarves have better elite infantry than the regular dwarves do, because hammers are just kind of janky, whereas like Infernal Ironsworn are super good, and they're definitely better than Ironbreakers considering they have armor piercing blasting charges. So the Great Taurus is on the way in, and now we're going to be going for the old sandwich. More depth guard pushing, balance of power, value very, very close, 5.8 to 5.3, as Drazhoath does get a rear charge, trying to sandwich in that Morgul Haunter. I know killing Noctilus is pretty much pointless. It's better to just tarp at him in good quality and or chaff units, basically. But we do use the Curse of Hashut. I'm going to be nailing that Morgul Haunter here. Good Pit of Shades coming down from the Kraken King. Going to be hitting the Dwarf Warriors right there. And Goblin Laborers and Orc Laborers trying to move up on the point to get it back. On the side, we managed to hold it. And yeah, the DREADQUAKE Mortar, let's see if it's going to make contact. Do it! Oh, man, and it missed again. But the range of the slow is pretty significant. It actually does get him down. But I don't think the DREADQUAKE has done a whole lot this game. Yeah, only 900 of value. And some of that is my own units, probably. In the backfield, Scurvy Dog swarming. 2v1 versus my Hobgoblin Wolf Riders. I was trying to protect the DREADQUAKE Mortar. On the side objective here, Anticity on summoning some of the bat units, and I did have to pull in some Chaos Dwarf Warriors because the Hobgoblins were just getting nuked super, super hard by his deck droppers, so that wasn't feeling good. But there's a Morgul Haunter in here now, which is a very, very good answer against my infantry, but Gordas should be able to hang, and of course Dwarf Warriors will get terror routed, but they'll be back. Those guys are definitely pretty resilient folk, very hardy like their Dwarven kin. Back objective taken by Anticity, and he has passed me on the value. Now I'm going to be maneuvering over. I felt we got both Morgul Haunters, but he did resummon in another one. We also summoned in some Bull Centaur Renders using their armor and shields to try and fight off the Vampire Coast, and they did do some pretty considerable damage against Lamprey's Revenge, but at the end of the day, Count Noctilus and the Depth Guard and some of those other units able to hold it down. And really, the big reason why I think I've lost a ton of momentum in this match is the DREADQUAKE Mortar. It's a 2,300 gold artillery piece, which has done basically nothing this game. So I just have a giant paperweight back here, which I just think is losing me this game. But, you know, we still have these big scary monsters and pretty good chances of potentially coming back if we can get some gooning. So here we do have Drazhoath the Ashen. He moves in and gets a huge amount of damage there on those Scurvy Dogs. My, oh my, he hits like a truck. DREADQUAKE Mortar misses again. A little bit disappointing as we do move in with the Orc Laborers and some Goblins trying to scrap that point back. But Depth Guard going to be hard to remove. You know, my answer against Depth Guard normally in a competitive build probably would be Magma Cannons, but in this case, the DREADQUAKE Mortar, it needs to carry the load a little bit stronger here. So this objective does belong to us, and it's going well, actually. The Dwarf Warriors holding valiantly, battling with Gorda's Backstabber, and we do get Drazhoath coming in on his Mighty Bale Taurus, and he is going to be able to beat the brakes off this Haunter, most likely. And we'll have to see. As far as spells, I do have the Curse of Hashut, as well as the Flames of Asgoro, the dreaded Volcano. Anticity, planning ahead, very, very strong player. Of course, going to be summoning in a lot of zombies to just control the points, knowing that he does have a triple cap on me, and even if I do have time to potentially push him back, if he can just tarp at the objectives, that's going to be a good way to win. Because Drazhoath might be able to pull this game back if he can take down this Morgul Haunter. You can see this guy's getting smashed. I mean, he's a great fighter on this mount. And you can also bring Drazhoath on foot, and he's an anti-infantry character with fire damage, not armor piercing, but against Coast could be viable. Maybe able to fight Count Noctilus well, and you know, Lore of Hashut has some okay spells. I would give it like a C+ in terms of Lores of Magic. It's no Lore of Death or Fire or like Life or anything, but it's not the worst. Curse of Hashut going down and is able to get some okay HP damage on the Morgul Haunter, which continues to get smashed, but Drazhoath has taken some blows as well. A couple zombies nearby are supporting. This objective taken over by Vampire Coast, but on the backside, we are able to get this one back. So the Bull Centaur renders are really, really good. And I do think the shielded variant against Coast is the way to go. Even if they have something large, like crabs, these guys have enough armor piercing, good enough stats. On top of that, having, 49 melee defense is pretty ludicrous. So they smash, just absolutely pounding those depth guard right there. And the DREADQUAKE mortar ran out of ammo as far as all of its shooting goes, so it shot its entire payload and was able to get 1400, which isn't the worst thing in the world. So I was trying to unsummon it at this point to get a value refund, which there is an argument to be made for that. It's very expensive, and when you unsummon it, you get a refund, so you can get like 1100, 1200 resources back. So yeah, I don't know, maybe it's not the worst thing. This objective starts to flip, but the zombies have arrived. So we're going to be sending in the hobgoblins to try and hold him off the objective, but he does get there. Drazhoath does have the volcano in his back pocket, and as far as value, he's up to 3,800. I mean, he's been an absolute beast this game. I'm really excited that every single one of the Chaos Dwarf Lords is good, is viable. Some are better than others. Astrogoth, I think, is the strongest, but arguably in this matchup, Drazhoath is better. Like, his fire damage and his gooning, but I guess against Gunline, he would be a little bit of a liability, but yeah, he gets in there. Back objective's going to be flipping back to us, so we do have the Hobgoblin Cutthroats coming in with some Goblin Laborers. These little sneaky gits should be able to get some nice shanks in on the zombies and show them who's boss. They do have great stats. And on the back objective, this one is heavily contested. We do get the Bull Centaur renders, and they get a nice charge. Bull Centaurs are another big MVP on this roster. I think they're great, as they do grind down these Crabos. So the Crabos going to be getting staboed here by the old Bull Centaur renders. And yeah, they are going down here pretty quickly, but again, Count Noctilus is going to be a pain, man. Drazhoath sitting up in the sky, going to be dropping the flames of Asgoro here. So here it comes, baby, the volcano of Hashut. Here it goes. Are you going to dodge it? Nice dodge by Anticity. He does kind of get out of the way there, and it tickles him a little bit, but he moved out of the way very well. He scattered. Great reaction on his part. As far as reinforcements go, we got Hobgoblin Cutthroats and more chaff units coming in. I could summon some Dwarvish infantry, but I feel they wouldn't have the killing powers with just like 1 or 2 units. He does bring out more Deck Dropper Bombers, maybe to start purging my backfield a little bit. And now I'm like kind of behind on points as Drazhoath is really trying to find a home. I thought about trying to goon Count Noctilus maybe. The Bull Centaurs are getting some okay damage against him, so you can see my boy is just kind of lurking nearby, and he's going to be maybe jumping in there to do a little bit of work. But obviously, I'm kind of on death's bed. I have like 900 HP, and he is a halberd character, so fighting there is very, very risky. So as far as troops being summoned in, we got the double Hobgoblin Cutthroat. We have also 2 sneaky gits coming in, which I think I should have vanguarded them up a little bit further. I was just kind of spam clicking out of desperation there, but we do hold down the back objective. He does have zombies holding his home point. Looking at the value, Anticity is up by about 800 points here, so certainly doing very, very good in terms of the value trading, especially considering his healing. Drazhoath actually sitting up around 4,000 value. I'm pretty sure he breaches 4,000. Yeah, 4,300 on this guy, man. Very solid. I mean, it's very encouraging to see a big, expensive monster actually pay for itself, because that's been one of the issues. And yeah, it seems like Chaos Dwarf Elite units in general aren't bad. Like, their monsters, the Lamasu's good, the Bale Taurus, the Great Bale Taurus. They have a pretty solid roster, like, overall. There's a couple units, I think they're demon engines, like the Iron Demon and the Skullcrackers are a little bit weird and janky. But aside from that, they get the job done. So Drazhoath the Ashen going to be moving in, only 600 HP, but he is able to drag down some of the bombers. And we did finish off the crabs, and I was like, okay, screw this. I've been down this road before. I've been playing Total War Warhammer for years. I'm not going to waste any more time trying to kill the great Count Noctilus. Count Nicholas, I think his name was Nicholas when he was a human, I think. Goblin Labor is storming the back objective, just desperately throwing things at all 3 points, basically. And it just looks as if we're not going to be able to get the points, ladies and gentlemen. Drazhoath is back here. My whole army's breaking. But that was a really, really fun match. Super good stuff. Anticity brought a very innovative, interesting Vampire Coast build that I think was a cool tech based on the previous game that we had played. We also got to experiment with the DREADQUAKE mortar. I know there haven't been a lot of replays of it, at least on my channel, so I'm happy to get that out there. But overall, I think the DREADQUAKE mortar was 100% the weak link this game that probably cost me a lot. If I had just come in with 2 magma cannons, granted, he had tech against magma cannons, he had double carronades, but I think 2 carronades might lose the 2 magmas if you use Drazhoath to fly overhead and nuke them with the flames. So I do think double magma cannon would have probably been really strong here and could have melted the depth guard and other units like that. But overall, it's cool to see. Probably I would even go with a same build as this, just cut the DREADQUAKE mortar. As far as reinforcements go, pretty happy with it, to be honest. I liked it. Maybe 1 blunderbuss, but I don't know. They have Fellbats and Scurvy Dogs. It's too easy to shut them down. So yeah, again, this build I think was good. Just cut the DREADQUAKE mortar, you're good to party. As far as matchups in which the DREADQUAKE mortar is good, oh man, I don't know. It just seems really, it friendly fires a lot too. I don't know. Have to think about it. Let me know your guys' thoughts. Well played to Anticity. He played a great game, and it's so fun playing with him again. I'm glad he's back, and it was really cool seeing Morngul Hunters and Noctilus. Yeah, look at these. Man, Lampreys with 2,400. Damn. Some good stuff right there. GG, well played. See you guys next time. And that is going to be it for today.